Hello again. When you come to learn a new scale, once you know the scale formula and the notes within it, the next step is to try and map those notes of the scale onto the guitar fingerboard so you can actually play it. And a common starting point for that is to come up with something we'll call a scale box, something that looks a little bit like this. Now that scale box there is for the major scale, and it's a really versatile shape because we can take that shape and we can move it. It's what's known as a movable box. And because we've got a defined root note, in this case it's the note that you play with your second finger on the bottom E string, we can take that shape, and if we play it so that the root note is on a C for argument's sake, we can play that box through and we'll get a C major scale. Take the shape and arrange it so that the root note's on a G, G major scale, and so on. And you can play that any position on the fingerboard, and wherever the root note is, it gives you that major scale. And this box approach is something you can apply to any of the scales that you learn. And like I say, it's quite flexible because you've got one box but 12 different scales based upon where you actually play it, depending on where the root note is. But there is a problem with getting stuck into this box sort of pattern. I'll show you what I mean. Let's take G major as an example. So we take the major scale shape that we just looked at and we play it with the root note down here, the 3rd fret on the bottom E string. There's a G major scale, all contained around these 4 frets down here. Now there's another way that I could play that G major scale. I could take it and find another place where I've got a G on the bottom E string, which is up here at the 15th fret, and I can play the same shape through. Well, that gives me a whole load of the fingerboard here that's kind of untouched. So I can play that through and it gives me a couple of octaves range if I'm playing down here. But if I want to move up any higher than the notes around here, I'd need to go all the way up here to the shape that's based around the 15th fret. But if you look at the fingerboard, the notes of the G major scale are all over the neck, like this. Now when you say it like that, it can be a bit daunting because you're just seeing the whole fingerboard with the notes of the scale across it. But there's a way you can approach it by coming up with other shapes to play the same scale. Okay, so we're starting off with this scale box here. But what I want to do is take the lower notes away from down this end of the neck and make the notes here the lowest notes in the box. I'll show you what I mean. So we're starting off from a G here. Let's start off with a different starting point. Let's make our lowest note in the scale the A. Okay? Now in the notes of the G major scale, I've got G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp and G. What I'm going to do is start off with an A here, then look at a B, which I've got here. Next place to go, I need a C. I could go down here. That's a bit of a stretch, I have to move my hand too much. But I've got C here that I can use, the 8th fret, so I'll use that. D is the next note. Now if you think about the G major scale here, I've got G, A, B, C, D. That's playable with my first finger, so I've got B, C, D. Next note in the scale is an E. I need an F sharp next. Now I could stretch up to here to get the F sharp, or I could just play the note here, this F sharp, which is the same one from that scale box, and play it there. G here, and we can continue that pattern through. So basically what we've got there is the G major scale, but I'm starting from an A rather than a G, so I'm missing out the first note. Like this. See? And that's allowed me to use a different part of the fingerboard. And so we can continue that pattern through, moving the shape through. But let's take a look using PhatPhish. Just look at the major scale shape that we're starting from, and then an alternative sort of fingering using some notes further up the fingerboard. Okay, so what's the point of all that? Well, I'm not just trying to show you like another scale box or other scale boxes as standalone entities as a way of playing that scale. You know, if you play this scale all the time and you just get locked into playing around that 4-fret block, and then you say, well, actually I'm going to use a different shape, I'm going to use the one that's based around here, you're just going to end up getting locked into that 4-fret block. The useful thing to do is to be able to see how this end of the shape that's based around here becomes the start of the shape that's based around here, and the end of the shape that's based around here becomes the start of the shape that's based around here, and so on as you move right the way along the neck. And that starts to allow you to see the scale not as one box, not as a series of boxes, but as one smooth flow of notes right the way across the neck and right the way along the neck. So we can take that first major scale shape as a starting point, but then we can move from one box to another up the fingerboard to make use of the notes up here rather than just getting locked into this 4-fret box down here. Okay, so you can do this with any type of scale. Worked here with the major scale, but take some time. You know, any of the scales that you know, you should be able to find other ways of being able to move the notes from the lower part of that scale box up to somewhere high, and effectively moving with different boxes up the fingerboard to give you a full scope along the neck rather than just being stuck in a 4 or 5-fret block. It's worth doing, and it'll stand you in good stead for some other things that you might start to learn in future. You know, if you come to learn modes, having this knowledge of other boxes is going to be really useful. And in fact, if you've studied modes and you're watching this, some of those boxes you should recognise from your modal playing. Don't worry too much about modes for now. If you're not familiar with modes, doesn't matter. Really, all we're looking at is being able to unlock that box and find the notes of the scale right the ways across the fingerboard. Because it gives much more freedom when you're soloing. If you want to go across a 3 over 4 octave pattern, you've got this potential to do that right the way along here, rather than being stuck in a couple of octaves and then having to move all the way up the neck by 12 frets to get access to the notes of the same scale box 12 frets higher. A tool like PhatPhish is really useful for this because you can visualize the scale across the whole fingerboard. So spend some time working with that. If you haven't downloaded PhatPhish, do so. There's a link in the information section on YouTube to the PhatPhish website where you can download it, and hopefully that will help you with your studies. Okay, so keep practicing. I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye for now.